Imagine a prison so fortified that even the thought of escape feels absurd. Guard towers rise like sentinels, motion sensors crawl across every inch, and concrete walls hide some of the world's most dangerous mines. This is ADX Florence, nicknamed the Alcatraz of the Rockies. But what if someone tried to break out? In this deep dive, we'll peel back the layers of America's most secure supermax to ask a simple, chilling question. Could anyone at all, escape? ADX Florence sits on a wind-swept plateau in Colorado, far from any bustling city. At first glance, it resembles a sterile campus of low, tan buildings, but every element is a trap. The facility is encased in 12-foot razor-wire fences, reinforced concrete walls, and an invisible perimeter of ground sensors. Guard posts with unobstructed sightlines dot the compound like chess pieces. Inside, each inmate lives alone in a 7 by 12-foot cell with a solid steel door and a narrow slot for food. Even their recreation yards are individual concrete pens with walls too high to glimpse the horizon. Designed after the escape-ridden 1980s, ADX Florence was built not just to hold, but to isolate, to make escape not only impossible, but unthinkable. Former wardens describe ADX Florence as a clean version of hell. Roughly 400 men reside here: terrorists, cartel bosses, double agents, gang leaders. Names like Ramzi Youssef, Richard Reed, and El Chapo have filled its cells. The architecture enforces sensory deprivation: sound-absorbing concrete, thick glass, sealed vents. Meals slide through slots. Exercise occurs in a concrete dog run. Even communication between inmates is engineered out. The idea is to strip away every variable an escape artist could manipulate. No mass yard time, no jobs outside the cell block, no kitchen duty. If Alcatraz's mythos was forged by daring swim attempts, ADX Florence's legend comes from its absos: loot stillness. It is a place designed not just to hold bodies, but to break patterns, routines, and alliances before they even form. To grasp why ADX Florence seems impenetrable, picture a chessboard with no empty squares. Perimeter fences are only the outer skin. Beyond them, seismic detectors sense footsteps. Microwave beams trigger alarms if crossed. Surveillance cameras feed to a 24-hour operations center. Correctional officers rotate through posts to prevent familiarity. Inside, each housing unit is a sealed pod with its own electronic security bubble. Doors can be opened only from a remote control room. Inmates never pass through more than one unsecured space at a time, and movement between zones follows a one-in, one-out rule with multiple identity checks. Even the ventilation system has escape-proof grills and alarms. The result is a layered defense. Even if one element failed, several others would still trap the escapee like nested cages. The men inside ADX Florence aren't petty thieves. They're high-risk, high-profile. Bombers, assassins, cartel chiefs, gang leaders, spies who betrayed nations. Some are under special administrative measures that limit even attorney contact. Each inmate represents a unique security challenge. One might have vast outside resources, another an aptitude for engineering, another fanatical devotion. Yet they're all managed within the same 4 layers of concrete. This concentration of extremes is what makes ADX different from an ordinary supermax. The design assumes every prisoner is a potential mastermind with nothing but time to plot. Understanding the inmate mix is crucial to understanding why the escape protocols are so uncompromising. Movement inside ADX is choreography. Inmates leave their cells only in full restraints, escorted by at least 2 officers, often with a third watching from behind. Doors are opened remotely, one at a time, so an inmate can never bolt into another zone. Routes are varied to avoid predictable patterns. Even the narrow hallways are designed to prevent ambushes or hidden handoffs. Officers communicate via radios tied into the central control room, where supervisors monitor camera feeds. Any deviation, a guard arriving late, a door failing to lock, triggers an incident report. In effect, the building itself is part of the staff. Walls, gates, and cameras act like silent co-workers, making sure nobody ever has the right combination of opportunity and privacy to attempt an escape. Beyond human vigilance, ADX Florence relies on invisible sentries. Ground sensors register vibrations from footsteps. Microwave barriers act like invisible tripwires. cross them, and alarms blare. Cameras feed high-definition video to a command post that never goes dark. The electronic locking system logs every opening and closing, creating a time-stamped audit trail. Even the mail is digitized and scanned before reaching an inmate. If a guard can be distracted or corrupted, software can't, at least in theory. This technology isn't flashy, it's layered redundancy. Should an inmate somehow slip a restraint or cut a vent, motion sensors and cameras wait in the next layer. That's why experts call ADX not just a prison, but a security ecosystem, where each piece supports the other. Hollywood loves the idea of a helicopter swooping in, or a team of armed men blasting through gates. In reality, the geography and protocols make outside rescue nearly impossible. ADX sits on a high, treeless plain with clear sightlines for miles. Any vehicle or aircraft would be spotted long before reaching the fence. The airs. Pace above is restricted. Local law enforcement trains for rapid response to perimeter breaches. More importantly, inmates are almost never in open yards or group transport where a rescue could occur. Each prisoner's location and schedule are tightly controlled, often at the last minute. Even attorneys must pass through layers of screening. The facility assumes the enemy is both outside and inside, and it designs against both simultaneously. In more than 2 decades of operation, ADX Florence has recorded no successful escapes. There have been incidents, makeshift weapons, assaults on staff, suicide attempts, but not a single verified breakout. Contrast that with older supermaxes like Marion or Alcatraz, where tunnels and clever disguises became legend. ADX was built to absorb those lessons. No communal workshops, no shared plumbing systems to crawl through, no blind corners for chipping away at concrete. The rare escape stories online usually trace back to transfers, an inmate breaking custody en route to court, not from ADX itself. This near-perfect record fuels both its fearsome reputation and public curiosity. If no one's ever escaped, is it because the place is unbeatable, or because no one's yet tried the right plan? Every fortress has one soft point: the people running it. ADX employs highly screened officers with specialized training in high-risk custody. Rotations are short to reduce burnout and bribery risk. Random audits check for contraband or policy drift. Yet no system can entirely eliminate human error. A guard could become complacent, miss a cue, or form an inappropriate relationship with an inmate. This is why ADX emphasizes 2-person rules, camera oversight, and electronic logs. Even a minor slip, forgetting to double-lock a cuff, failing to scan a badge, becomes data in a report and often triggers retraining. In effect, the staff are part of the CCU. RIDI design just like the walls. They're expected to act with the same precision as the technology surrounding them. So what would it actually take to break out? Analysts sketch scenarios like puzzle maps, neutralize restraints during movement, bypass remote-controlled doors, dodge sensors, scale multiple fences under fire, then disappear across open terrain. Each step alone would be extraordinary. Together, they're astronomical. A plan would demand months of inside intelligence, outside logistics, and perfect timing, without any rehearsal. And even then, the inmate would emerge into a barren plateau with roads blocked and helicopters inbound. In other words, an escape isn't just hard, it's nearly suicidal. This is why ADX Florence stands as the ultimate test case in prison design, a place where freedom itself is engineered out of the equation. The rare moments of vulnerability for ADX inmates come not inside the prison, but during transfers, court appearances, hospital visits, or relocation to another facility. That's why a transfer at ADX is a military-style operation. The inmate is placed in full restraints, handcuffs, waist chain, leg irons, sometimes a blackout hood. Armed transport teams, often including U.S. Marshals, move in staggered convoys so no single vehicle carries both inmate and paperwork. The route is classified until the last moment and may change mid-journey. Roadblocks and air support can be deployed if there's any credible threat. Even the courthouse or hospital is swept in advance. All of this costs time and money, but it's cheaper than a breakout. These measures show that ADX's no-escape design extends beyond its walls. The philosophy is to remove predictability and overwhelm any would-be rescuers at every stage, even miles away from Florence, Colorado. Physical walls are only part of ADX's security. The other part lives in the mind. Inmates spend 23 hours a day alone, with almost no unstructured contact. Over months and years, this isolation erodes the patience and trust required to plot an escape. They can't test each other's loyalty in a yard. They can't swap contraband tools. They can't map blind spots. Even communication through drains or pipes, common in older prisons, is curtailed by sealed systems and constant white noise from vents. The few glimpses of staff come during highly scripted moments: meals, recreation, medical checks. By the time an inmate might conceive an escape plan, he lacks allies, information, and mental clarity. Some former prisoners say they became so disoriented that even walking in a straight line felt odd when they were finally released. ADX's true genius may be in this invisible barrier, designing a world where plotting becomes psychologically impossible long before a bolt cutter is ever needed. You might think intelligence gathering only happens between nations, but ADX runs its own internal counterintelligence program. Staff analyze mail, phone logs, legal visits, and even recreation requests for patterns. Every envelope is opened, scanned, and sometimes copied before delivery. Digital forensics teams look for hidden codes in artwork or legal filings. Confidential informants, sometimes inmates, sometimes contractors, feed tips about brewing plots. When staff see multiple small anomalies, a sudden spike in commissary purchases, unusual exercise patterns, coded phrases, they can tighten restrictions before a plan matures. This anticipatory approach flips the traditional script. Rather than react to escape attempts, ADX tries to starve them of oxygen. The effect is like chess again. While an inmate is thinking 2 moves ahead, the prison is trying to think 5. This counterintelligence network is rarely visible to the public, but it's one reason the facility's record remains unbroken. Any escape attempt would have to be invisible not only to guards, but to an entire analytical apparatus designed to sniff out secrets. History is littered with prisons once called Inescapable. Alcatraz had its legendary raft builders. Marion saw murders and uprisings. Mexico's Altiplano lost El Chapo to a tunnel. ADX architects studied these failures line by line. They eliminated common denominators: communal workspaces, weak maintenance areas, underground utilities, and predictable shift changes. They built redundancy into every point of entry and exit. Even water and electrical systems are sealed behind secure chases rather than crawl spaces. The recreation yards, nicknamed dog runs, are placed above ground, not below, making tunneling nearly impossible without detection. In other words, ADX is not just a building, but an evolving thesis. A living document of past escapes turned into concrete lessons. For an inmate, this means there's no folklore to copy, no blueprint to hack, no folklore of a successful breakout. For staff, it means constant training to prevent complacency, because they know history's lesson too. Every perfect system eventually meets its match if it stops adapting. Why do millions of people watch videos about ADX Florence? Because it's the ultimate what-if story. Humans are drawn to impossible challenges: Everest climbs, deep-sea dives, magic tricks. A prison designed to be unbreakable naturally becomes a stage for our imagination. Could a genius engineer or a secret team outwit it? What would freedom mean to someone entombed in concrete for decades? These questions fuel books, TV dramas, and YouTube deep dives like this one. Yet the very act of speculation is also part of ADX's aura, an institution so opaque that myths grow in the gaps. Former staff rarely speak. Inmates' letters are censored. Photographs are limited. The mystery invites us to fill in blanks, to imagine blueprints and secret passages. In reality, those blanks are mostly filled with more concrete and more maras. But as long as ADX exists, the paradox will too. A place built to erase stories ends up generating endless stories about whether escape could ever be possible. ADX Florence isn't just a prison, it's a question mark carved into the Colorado desert. For nearly 3 decades, it has stood as the ultimate test of confinement, and so far the walls are winning. We've peeled back the layers, examined the logistics, and asked the forbidden question: could anyone ever escape? What do you think? Is an escape even theoretically possible? Or is this fortress truly unbreakable? Drop your thoughts below. We read every comment. And if you found this deep dive eye-opening, hit the like button and subscribe for more true crime and prison insider breakdowns. Until next time, stay curious and stay safe.